Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered if you could connect the dots between ancient texts, the stars, and our modern calendars to predict the future? Well, today we are diving deep into a study that claims to do exactly that, following a trail of clues that leads to a single, specific date.
Now, what we're about to walk through is our breakdown of a really complex and detailed study from a group called Ministry Revealed. We're going to hit all the major points, but trust me, their work goes incredibly deep. So if you want to see every single biblical reference and follow their entire research path, the link to their full analysis is waiting for you down in the description.
So this really gets to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? It's the big question this study is trying to answer. Can we actually piece together a prophetic timeline? Is it possible there's some kind of hidden clock, ticking away in old calendars, scripture, and even the stars? That's exactly what we're going to explore.
Okay, so the foundation of this study is built on a very specific structure. It all centers around a prophesied 14-year period. But, and this is the key, the study claims this long period doesn't just start out of nowhere. It's actually triggered by a very important 50-day countdown. So our job here is to follow the clues the study lays out to figure out what kicks off that countdown.
All right, let's get into it. The entire timeline is basically built on a couple of key clues. And the very first one, well, it isn't a single day. It's an entire year. The year that this study uses as the anchor for this whole thing is 2026. And the reason for picking that specific year comes from a pretty fascinating ancient calendar name, the year of the fire horse.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get really interesting. The study points out this kind of surprising connection between the Chinese and Hebrew calendars. Turns out they're both lunisolar calendars. And even more than that, they both use the same ancient 19-year cycle. It's called the Metonic cycle, to keep the lunar months and the solar year in sync. The study basically argues that this shared structure is probably not a coincidence. And for the year 2026, the Chinese calendar has a very, very rare name.
So, the year of the fire horse. It only happens once every 60 years. And here's the biblical connection this study makes. It points right to the prophet Elijah. You know, the one who famously didn't die but was taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire pulled by horses of fire. The study suggests this rare 60-year celestial event could be a signpost for a prophesied event linked to Elijah.
So, with 2026 set as the year, the next step was to find a specific day to lock the timeline in place. Let's move to the next clue, and you'll see how this starts to build. And believe it or not, it all has to do with the hidden meaning of a single crucial word.
This next piece of the puzzle comes from, of all places, the very first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. Now, the study argues that how we understand that word beginning as just, a generic start might miss a much deeper, more specific, original meaning. The Hebrew word used here is reshit, and yeah, it does mean first or start, but the study argues it was also a technical term tied directly to the harvest cycle. Specifically, they say it points to the Feast of First Fruits, that exact moment when a sheaf from the very first of the barley harvest was brought to the priest as an offering. So, the beginning gets reframed, right? It's not just any moment in time, it's a specific recurring agricultural and religious event. And this is where a little astronomy comes into play. You have to think of the Earth like a spinning top. It's got a very, very slow wobble that takes thousands of years to complete one cycle. That wobble is called precession, and it means the constellations we see in the sky at certain times of the year have actually shifted. So way back when, the ancient beginning and its barley harvest happened when the sun was in the constellation Taurus in the summer. But today, because of that wobble, the same point in Earth's orbit happens when the sun is in Pisces in the spring. The sky has literally changed above us. Okay, but here's the absolute crucial point the study makes. Even though the seasons have drifted and the constellations in the sky have changed, the date of this event on the biblical calendar has not. It argues that this Feast of First Fruits, this true beginning, is locked in. It's always on the 15th day of the first biblical month. This fixed date becomes the key, the main anchor for their entire timeline. So how do you bring these two clues together, the fire horse year and this fixed date of the beginning? Well, this is where that 50-day countdown we mentioned at the start comes back into the picture. This is how the study connects the dots. The logic here unfolds in three pretty straightforward steps. First, the study sets the start of that big 14-year period to this beginning, the 15th day of the first month. Second, using their own calendar, which they say they've adjusted to align with modern astronomy, they pinpoint this date as April 20th, 2026.
And then, for the third and final step, to find the starting gun for the whole event, they simply count backward 50 days from that April 20th date.
And this slide just shows you that calculation perfectly. You plant your flag on April 20th, that's the beginning. Then you just walk it back 50 days, and that's how you land on the proposed trigger date that kicks the whole sequence into motion.
So, after connecting astronomy, ancient Hebrew, and some calendar mechanics, the entire calculation points to one specific day, March 2nd, 2026. According to this study, that's the trigger. That's the day the 50-day countdown officially begins.
So why that date? What's so special about March 2nd, 2026? Well, the study argues it's anything but random. First, it's said to be a full moon. But not just any full moon, a total lunar eclipse, what's often called a blood moon. And on top of all that, it happens to fall on the exact same day as the Jewish festival of Purim, which is a holiday of feasting and celebration. The study presents this pileup of three significant events as something you can't ignore.
And the Purim connection is then tied to a pretty specific prophecy. You see, a well-known tradition during Purim is to wear costumes and masks. The study points to a verse in the book of Zephaniah that talks about a future day of judgment where God will punish those clothed with strange apparel. The suggestion here is a direct link between this modern holiday tradition and this ancient warning.
So here it is, the full timeline proposed by the study, laid out nice and clear. It all starts on March 2nd, 2026, with that Purim blood moon acting as the trigger event. This kicks off the 50-day countdown, which finishes on April 20th, 2026. And that day, which the study identifies as the true beginning, marks the start of what they claim is the final 14-year prophetic period.
So, just to recap the whole chain of logic one more time, the study begins by flagging 2026 as the rare fire horse year. From there, it reinterprets the word beginning from Genesis to mean a specific, fixed date on the calendar. Then, by counting back 50 days from that date, it lands on March 2nd, 2026, a day that it says is packed with astronomical and religious significance.
And really, all of this leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? When we look for meaning in these really complex systems, whether it's ancient texts or financial markets or anything else, how do we know what we're really seeing? What's the line between discovering a genuine, hidden insight and just finding a pattern that happens to confirm what we were hoping to find all along? It's a question worth asking, no matter what you're looking at.